Look at this. A black square. That's it. No hidden figure, no clever technique, no story painted into the surface, just black paint on white canvas. This painting sold at auction for over $1 million. It hangs today in one of the most important museums in the world, behind protective glass, with a security guard standing next to it. And the man who made it, he claimed, with complete sincerity, that he had just ended all of art history. Was he a genius? Or was he simply the greatest con artist who ever lived? To understand this painting, you need to understand the world it was born into. Because this is not just a story about art. It's a story about a civilization that was falling apart. The year is 1915. The First World War has been going for over a year. Millions of people are already dead. Empires that had stood for centuries are starting to crack. Russia is losing the war. The Tsar is weak. The people are exhausted and angry. Nobody knows it yet, but in just 2 years, the entire Russian order will collapse. The revolution is coming. And in the middle of all this, in the city of Petrograd, artists are asking a question that sounds almost childish, but isn't. If the old world is ending, what should art look like? What do you paint when everything you knew is disappearing? That question is where our story begins. Kazimir Malevich was born in 1879 in Warsaw to a working-class Ukrainian family. He had no formal art training as a child, no wealthy patrons, no connections. He just loved painting, and he worked obsessively to get good at it. By the time he was in his 30s, he was genuinely skilled, vivid, complex, colorful. Look at these paintings from his early career. The color, the energy, the technical control. This man could paint. He knew how to create beauty. He knew how to impress people. And then he chose to throw all of that away. But here's what most people miss. It wasn't a sudden decision. It was the end of a long journey. In 1913, Malevich designed the sets for an opera called Victory Over the Sun. The title alone tells you everything. The sun, the oldest symbol of light, reason, and beauty, was being captured and defeated. And on one of those stage backdrops, for the very first time, there was a black square. He had been moving toward this moment for years. The black square wasn't an accident. It was a conclusion. December 1915, Petrograd. An exhibition called 0.10, the last futurist exhibition of paintings. Malevich arrives with a group of paintings unlike anything anyone has ever seen. Pure geometric shapes, no objects, no people, no recognizable world. But it's not the paintings themselves that cause the shock. It's where he hangs them. In a traditional Russian home, there is one corner that is sacred. It's called the Krasny Ugol, the beautiful corner. That's where the family keeps its Orthodox icons, the images of saints, the most holy objects in the house. When you walk into a Russian home, your eyes go straight to that corner. Malevich took his black square, a painting of absolutely nothing, and hung it in that corner, right where the icon should be. He didn't explain it. He didn't give a speech. He just put it there. The reaction was immediate. Some people laughed. Some were furious. One of Russia's most respected art critics wrote that the black square was one of the acts of self-affirmation of that principle of evil. He meant it as an insult. Malevich took it as a compliment. Because that was exactly the point. He was not just making a painting, he was making a statement. The old world, its religion, its traditions, its idea of beauty, was over. And in its place, there was this, a black square, pure, empty, absolute. He called his new movement suprematism. the supremacy of pure feeling over the visible world. He wrote, "I have transformed myself in the zero of form." Zero. That word is important. Remember it. Now, here is where things get interesting. The original black square, the one painted in 1915, has not aged well. Over the decades, the paint has cracked, badly, and those cracks reveal something that Malevich never intended anyone to see. In 2015, scientists at the Tretyakov Gallery in Moscow used X-ray and infrared technology to look beneath the surface of the painting. What they found changed everything we thought we knew about it. Underneath the black paint, there are two earlier paintings, compositions Malevich had started and then covered over. But that wasn't the most surprising discovery. Inside the painting, written directly on the canvas before he painted over it, they found a handwritten phrase, a reference to a painting called Battle of Negroes in a Dark Cave. That was the title of a joke painting made in 1882 by a French humorist named Alphonse Allais. His painting was also entirely black, a completely black canvas, made as a parody, as a prank. Malevich knew about it. He was in direct conversation with it. Which means the black square was not a naive gesture. It was not someone who simply ran out of ideas. It was a precise, calculated, philosophical statement. Think about what he actually did. He didn't start with a blank canvas. He painted over something real, something colorful and complex. He chose nothing. He constructed nothing, very deliberately. And that changes everything. Because the black square isn't really about emptiness. It's about the decision to erase. After the revolution in 1917, Malevich became a celebrated figure. The new Soviet state loved the avant-garde. It felt radical. It felt modern. It felt like the future. For a few years, artists like Malevich had real power and real freedom. But then Stalin came, and everything changed. By the late 1920s, Stalin had consolidated power over the Soviet Union, and he had very specific ideas about what art should look like. He called it socialist realism. Heroic workers, smiling farmers, strong leaders, everything clear, simple, and optimistic. Abstract art, art that made people think rather than simply feel proud, was declared decadent, an enemy of the people. In 1930, Malevich was arrested by the Soviet secret police. He was interrogated for 2 months. We don't know exactly what was said in those rooms, but we know what happened after. He was released, but he was broken. In his final years, Malevich returned to figurative painting. Look at these late works. The people in them have no faces, or the faces are blank, or the figures stand in empty landscapes with no horizon. Some art historians see it as survival, a man doing what he had to do to stay alive. Others see it as a kind of mourning, a man saying goodbye to the world he had tried to build. He died in 1935 of cancer. He was 56 years old. But before he died, he left very specific instructions about his funeral. He wanted to be buried in a coffin he had designed himself, the shape of a suprematist cross, and on the lid, a white cube with a black square painted on it. The regime that had destroyed his life's work buried him exactly the way he asked. Even at the end, the geometry held. So, was he right? Did Kazimir Malevich really end art history with a black square? He was wrong about the ending. Art didn't stop. But every minimalist movement that came after him walks through a door that Malevich built. Mark Rothko, Donald Judd, Yves Klein, You can draw a straight line from a black square in Petrograd in 1915 to some of the most debated art in the world today. And yet, the black square now hangs in a museum with a gift shop and a security guard. Malevich wanted to destroy the entire institution of art. The institution won. But maybe that's not the right way to judge him. In 1915, a man walked into an exhibition hall. He put a black square where the icon should be, and he said, "Everything you thought art was, it's over now." He was wrong about a lot of things, but once you've seen the black square, you cannot look at a painting the same way again. Because now you know, sometimes the most powerful choice of all is to paint nothing.